She told me I was just jealous of her coworker who gave her attention. But I exposed their secret meetings, sent HR the proof, and watched both their careers, marriages, and reputations fall apart while I walked away stronger. At 29 male, want to tell you about a story that shook my life in ways I never expected. For 2 years, I was in a relationship with my girlfriend Eliza. She was 27, worked at a mid-sized marketing firm. We had been living together for 6 months, and on the surface, everything seemed normal, even stable. Eliza had a good job, made a decent salary, and often spoke about her future plans at that firm. For a while, I believed things were fine between us. But that changed when a new person entered her work life. A senior account manager named Derek, 34, married with kids, who slowly became the center of her conversations and eventually, the center of the storm that tore everything apart. At first, Derek was just a name she mentioned in passing. She would come home and casually talk about him. She would say things like, "Derek had a great idea in the meeting today," or, "Derek brought donuts for everyone." To me, that sounded innocent enough. People mention colleagues all the time, especially those they work closely with. I didn't think much of it because I wanted to be supportive and trusted her. But slowly, the mentions of Derek became more frequent and more detailed. She would talk about him for 30 minutes straight when she got home, about his jokes, about how he really got digital marketing, about how he complimented her presentations, and about how he was helping her learn more about account management. I started to notice a pattern. The mentions became more personal, and her time at work seemed to revolve around him. She began staying late for project reviews with him and attending team lunches that somehow only included the two of them. That didn't sit right with me, and eventually, I decided to bring it up. One evening, while we were cooking dinner together, I tried to address it casually. I said something like, "So, this Derek guy seems pretty involved in your work life lately." She immediately rolled her eyes and brushed it off, saying, "He's a senior manager, of course he's involved." I tried to explain that it just seemed like she mentioned him a lot more than any other colleague. That's when she snapped, "Are you seriously jealous of my coworker? That's so immature." I tried to stay calm and clarified that I wasn't jealous, just observant. I noticed a pattern, and I wanted to understand what was happening. She put down the knife she was using and looked at me coldly. "Derek is married with 2 kids. He's professional and supportive, which is more than I can say for you right now." I told her that supporting her career and also wanting boundaries wasn't a conflict. They could go hand in hand. She insisted there were no boundaries being crossed, and then said something that stung. "You're just jealous. He gives me attention and validates my work. Maybe if you showed more interest in my career instead of your stupid fantasy football league." That hurt because I had helped her prepare for her last 3 presentations. I reminded her of that, but she brushed it off and said, "Whatever. He's teaching me about account management. It's called mentorship. Grow up." That argument ended with her choosing to sleep on the couch, and from that night forward, things between us got even worse. Over the next few weeks, her behavior became harder to ignore. She was constantly on her phone, texting during dinner, smiling at messages, taking calls in the bathroom. Her work wardrobe changed too: tighter skirts, lower-cut blouses, high heels she used to complain about wearing because they hurt her feet. And then came the night that changed everything. It was a Thursday night about 3 weeks ago. She came home at 11 p.m., slightly buzzed. I asked casually, "Work drinks?" She replied, "Derek took a few of us out to celebrate landing the Morrison account." I pressed a little, "A few of you? Who exactly?" She tried to brush it off again. "Yeah, me, him, and others." But I knew she was lying. I said, "Who exactly was there?" She snapped, "Why does it matter?" I told her the truth. "Because you're lying. Your coworker Jade posted Instagram stories 2 hours ago from her nephew's recital. And Roman, another teammate, doesn't drink at all. So who else was there?" She went quiet, then defensive. Finally, she admitted, "Fine, it was just us. He wanted to celebrate, and everyone else was busy. It's not a big deal." I looked at her, shocked. Your married boss took you out for drinks alone until 11 at night. And you don't see the issue. She snapped back. He's not my boss. He's a senior colleague. And you're just jealous. He gives me attention. You don't. That's when I told her the harsh truth. Eliza, he's grooming you. She actually laughed in my face. Grooming me? I'm 27, not 17. He respects my intelligence and potential. Sorry you can't handle another man seeing my value. I looked straight at her and said, he'll give you more than attention if you keep this up. She gasped and asked, what's that supposed to mean? I replied, it means guys like Derek don't mentor young women out of the goodness of their hearts. He's got an agenda. She called me pathetic, said Derek was always professional, and claimed that I was threatening the relationship because of my jealousy. Then she stormed off to the bedroom, leaving me to sleep on the couch. But here's what she didn't know. I already knew who Derek really was. After that Thursday night fight, I knew I couldn't stay silent anymore. Not because I was jealous, but because I knew exactly who Derek Holsworth was and the damage he was capable of. Months earlier, my buddy Trevor, who worked in the IT department of the same company, had mentioned a story about an account manager who got talked to by HR for being too friendly with an intern. Nothing official was on his record because the intern left the company before filing a formal complaint. At the time, I didn't pay much attention, but when I connected the dots later, I realized that the person Trevor was talking about was none other than Derek. I reached out to Trevor and asked him to keep an eye out, not to spy, but just to notice things. Trevor didn't have to look hard. The Monday after our fight, he sent me a message. Your girl and that dude are in the supply closet. Third time this week. I asked him what they were doing. He replied, talking, but the door's closed. Make of that what you will. The next day, Trevor texted again. He just walked her to her car, hand on her lower back the whole time. Then on Wednesday, another text came in. Bro, they left for lunch at noon. It's 2:30, and her car's still gone. That evening, Eliza came home humming like she was on top of the world. I asked, good day. She smiled and said, great day. Derek's recommending me for the junior account manager position. He says I'm a natural. I raised my eyebrows. That's fast. You've only been working closely with him for what? 2 months. She smiled even brighter and said, when you're good, you're good. She even kissed my forehead and added, I might be late tomorrow. Derek wants to prep me for the interview at the office. He has a home office too with more resources there. That set off every alarm in my head. I sat up straight and said, you're going to his house? His home office. She rolled her eyes. God, you really can't let this go, can you? I begged. Eliza, please don't go to his house. She crossed her arms and asked, give me one good reason. I said, because I care about you, and this feels wrong. She snapped, your jealousy feels wrong. I'm going. End of discussion. On Thursday, she left work early at 3 p.m., according to Trevor, and didn't return home until 10 at night. When she walked in, I tried to keep my voice calm. How was the prep? She smiled. Productive. I think I've really got a shot at this position. But then I noticed something. Her shirt was inside out. I pointed it out. Your shirt's on backwards. She looked down quickly, and her face flushed. She said, oh, I changed at the gym after. Must have put it on wrong. I replied, you don't have a gym bag. She immediately covered herself. I keep spare clothes in my car. I pressed further. Since when? She snapped. Since I started caring about my appearance. Something you haven't noticed. I stood up, heart racing. Eliza, did something happen with Derek? She shouted. Oh my God, nothing happened. I'm so sick of this jealous, controlling behavior. That's when I pointed to the mark on her neck. Then why is there a hickey on your neck? She instantly slapped her hand over it. Wrong side. It's a curling iron burn. I shook my head. You don't curl your hair. She insisted. I'm trying new things. Why are you interrogating me? I answered firmly. Because you're lying, and you're not even good at it. She grabbed her purse in a rush. I'm staying at my sister's. I can't deal with your paranoia. I tried to stop her. Eliza, wait. She shouted back. No, you're suffocating me. Derek's right. You're threatened by successful women. I froze. Derek said that? She paused at the door and nodded. He understands what it's like to support ambitious people. His wife is a surgeon. I snapped back. Did he mention his wife when he was giving you that hickey? She slammed the door without another word. That night, as I sat alone in the apartment, I realized something important. If she wanted to destroy our relationship for a married man who was obviously using her, that was her choice. But I wasn't going to let him continue destroying the careers of other young women. I opened my laptop and made a decision that would change everything. The next morning, Friday, I sent the email. I used an anonymous account, a VPN, and took every precaution. But I didn't just send it without evidence. I did my homework first. Trevor had access to security badge logs, one of the perks of working in IT. He pulled 3 months of data for Derek and Eliza's badge swipes. The pattern was clear. Multiple instances of them being the last two in the office. Several times, their badges showed them entering the building on weekends. One time, they badged into a conference room at 7 in the evening and didn't leave until 10 at night. Still, that wasn't enough. I needed more. I remembered that Eliza's laptop was accessible. She had given me her password months ago when she needed help submitting an assignment while traveling. She never changed it. On Friday afternoon, while she was at her sister's, I logged in. I wasn't looking for personal things, only work communications. When I opened the company Slack, I found exactly what I needed. There were direct messages between her and Derek that left no room for doubt. Derek wrote things like, "You looked incredible in that dress today. Can't wait for our meeting later." Another message said, "My wife's at a conference this weekend. House to ourselves for prep." Another one, "You're too talented to be just an associate. I'll make sure you rise quickly." Her responses were just as telling. She sent hearts, winks, and even one message that made me feel sick. "Can't wait to show you my appreciation for all your mentorship." I took screenshots of everything. Then I created a new email. The subject line read, "Formal complaint regarding Derek Holsworth." I attached the badge logs, the screenshots, and detailed how Derek had a history of inappropriate behavior, mentioning the incident with the intern without naming names. I explained the risks of quid pro quo harassment regarding promotions and sent it to HR, the head of HR, and Derek's direct manager. Then I waited. On Monday morning, everything exploded. Eliza came home on Sunday night acting like nothing happened. She even said she needed space and admitted she overreacted. I just nodded and cooked dinner. But by 10 o'clock Monday morning, she called me crying. "They suspended Derek," she said between sobs. I asked, "What? Why?" She replied, "Someone sent HR screenshots of our Slack messages. They pulled badge logs. They think that he was." I interrupted, "Were you?" Silence filled the line. Finally, she whispered, "It's not what you think." I pushed again. "Then what is it?" She said, "He said if I was nice to him, he'd fast-track my promotion. It wasn't. I didn't think." I cut her off. "You didn't think trading sexual favors for career advancement was wrong?" She shouted, "Don't you dare. You don't understand the pressure. How hard it is for women to advance." I said coldly, "So you decided to make it harder for every other woman by playing into this?" She hung up on me. 2 hours later, she called again, this time completely hysterical. "I'm suspended too, pending investigation. They said I had an obligation to report inappropriate behavior from a senior colleague." I asked, "Did you tell them it was consensual?" She whispered, "I told them he pressured me." I begged her, "Eliza, don't lie to HR." She insisted, "I'm not lying. He did pressure me with the promotion and the attention." I said quietly, "And you said yes. You made choices." She snapped, "Whose side are you on?" I answered, "The truth's." That evening, she came home carrying a cardboard box with her desk items. Derek was not just suspended, He was terminated immediately. Turns out this wasn't his first time. The intern from before had filed a complaint after leaving. Another woman from accounting had complained 2 years ago. HR had been building a case against him. Eliza was given a choice: resign with a neutral reference or be terminated with cause. She screamed at me, "This is your fault."
Ich zerrte her.
"How is this my fault?" She yelled. "You were so jealous, so suspicious. You made me feel like I had to prove something." I replied sharply, "I made you sleep with your married coworker?" She shouted back, "I didn't. We just kissed a few times and did some other stuff, but not sex." I sarcastically said, "Oh, well, that makes it all better." She threw a pillow at me and cried, "You don't get it. My career is ruined. Nobody will hire me." I looked at her coldly. "You ruined your own career when you decided to exchange other stuff for a promotion." She whispered, "Everyone does it." I shook my head. "No, Eliza, they don't." She ended up choosing resignation and moved back with her sister. But that wasn't the end. When Eliza returned home that evening, I was sitting on the couch with my laptop still open beside me. She walked in with that same smile she always carried when she thought everything was normal. She asked me about my day, but I could barely focus on her words because I knew what I had found. I simply nodded and told her everything was fine, even though my stomach was tight, and my heart was heavy with the knowledge of what she had been doing behind my back. That night, she took a shower, made herself some tea, and then curled up next to me on the couch like nothing was wrong. She rested her head on my shoulder and said she was tired from all the work she had to do with Ryan. Hearing that name, knowing what I knew, made my chest burn. I wanted to ask her right then. I wanted to shout. I wanted to demand the truth. But instead, I sat quietly because I knew that the more calm I stayed, the more careful I could be with the next steps. The following morning, I woke up earlier than her. She was still asleep, breathing softly like an innocent person, and for a moment I wondered if I was overreacting. But the screenshots in my laptop and the messages that exchanged between her and Ryan were clearer than anything my heart wanted to deny. She had crossed a line, and there was no way to pretend it was just work. I got ready and left for my job, but instead of going straight to my desk, I took a detour. I went into a quiet corner of the building, opened my laptop, and organized every piece of evidence I had gathered. The screenshots, the emails, the late-night messages, the meeting requests that clearly had nothing to do with real work. I put them all in a neat file. I even created a timeline, detailing dates and times, just to make sure there would be no room for doubt or excuses. By the time lunch rolled around, I had finished organizing everything. I sat there looking at the folder with a heavy heart. I loved Eliza, and part of me still wanted to believe that maybe I misunderstood. But the other part of me knew that love without respect or loyalty was worthless. And in that moment, I knew exactly what I had to do. That afternoon, while Eliza thought I was still busy at my office, I drafted an email. I attached every screenshot, every piece of evidence, and sent it directly to HR at her company. I didn't write anything angry or emotional. I simply stated that I believed there was an inappropriate relationship between two employees, Eliza and Ryan, and that I was providing documentation to support my claim. The minute I pressed send, my hands shook and my stomach twisted. I knew that life was about to change for both of us, and there was no turning back. That evening, Eliza came home as usual. She acted completely normal, even cooked dinner, and told me about a funny story Ryan shared at work. I sat there listening, knowing that HR probably already had my email in their inbox, maybe even already reading through the screenshots. I nodded at her, pretending to be interested, while deep down I felt a strange mix of sadness, relief, and quiet power. The next morning, Eliza's phone buzzed repeatedly with notifications. She checked them, and I saw her face go pale. Her smile disappeared, and she rushed to the bedroom without saying much. A few minutes later, I heard her on the phone, speaking in a nervous tone. She kept saying things like, "It was just a misunderstanding," and "We were just talking." That was the first time she realized that someone had exposed the truth. When she finally walked out of the room, she looked straight at me, her eyes filled with panic. She asked me if I knew anything about it, if I had heard something, or if maybe someone was spreading lies. I simply looked at her calmly and said, "Eliza, people only get scared when the truth comes out." Her mouth opened like she wanted to say more, but no words came. She just stared at me, and for the first time, she looked small, cornered, and weak. She knew. She absolutely knew. Within days, HR had called her into multiple meetings. Rumors started circulating at her office, and the image she had built over 3 years began to crumble. Ryan was also pulled into those meetings, and from what I later heard, his own marriage was on the edge because his wife found out too. 2 careers, 2 reputations, 2 relationships, all crashing down because they thought their secret would stay hidden forever. Meanwhile, I packed my things. I couldn't stay with someone who looked me in the eye every day and lied to me without hesitation. When Eliza came home from one of her meetings, tears streaming down her face, begging me to believe her, I simply shook my head. I told her that love without loyalty was like a house built on sand. It would always collapse no matter how beautiful it looked from the outside. She tried to apologize, tried to explain, tried to say that she only liked the attention and it didn't mean anything. But to me, it meant everything. It meant my trust was broken, my heart was disrespected, and my time had been wasted. So I left. I walked away from her, from the apartment we once shared, and from the life I thought we were building together. It hurt, but it also felt like freedom, because for the first time in months, I was living in the truth instead of a lie. In the days that followed, Eliza tried reaching out to me multiple times, begging me to at least listen to her side of the story. But every time I looked at my phone and saw her name flashing on the screen, I felt a wave of coldness inside my chest. I knew there was nothing left to say. She had made her choices, and she had lied to my face for months, pretending everything was fine while betraying the trust one had placed in her. For the first time in my life, I chose myself over the person who had hurt me. I blocked her number, deleted her messages, and promised myself that I would never again allow someone to treat my love like a foolish weakness. As for Mark, the married coworker who thought he could sneak around without consequences, his life crumbled quickly. His wife filed for divorce within 2 weeks, and because she had the screenshots I sent to HR along with my evidence, she walked away with most of their assets. At work, his reputation was shattered beyond repair. Even though the company could not publicly announce the full details, everyone knew what had happened. He lost his position, and no other firm in the area wanted to hire him after that. The same charming persona he once used to manipulate people could no longer hide the stain of his actions. Eliza, on the other hand, faced her own set of consequences. Though she was not fired immediately, HR conducted a full review, and her involvement with a married colleague violated workplace policies. She was quietly demoted, stripped of some of her projects, and slowly pushed out. Within months, she left the company entirely. From what I heard later, she struggled to find another job with the same pay or stability. Her friends turned away from her, seeing the kind of person she had become. In the end, she had traded a stable relationship and a peaceful life with me for a brief affair that cost her everything. Meanwhile, I began to rebuild my life brick by brick. First, it was hard. There were nights I lay awake wondering if I had done the right thing, if maybe I should have tried to forgive her, or if exposing the truth was too cruel. But every time I remembered the lies, the gaslighting, the way she looked at me and called me jealous, as if I were crazy, I knew deep down that I had only protected myself. I started therapy, focused on my work, and even took up new hobbies that helped distract my mind from the pain. Slowly, I discovered a strength I never realized I had. Months later, when I ran into an old mutual friend, I learned that Eliza had tried dating again but failed miserably. She had burned too many bridges, and her reputation followed her everywhere. Some part of me felt sorry for her, but a larger part of me knew that people who break others so carelessly eventually face their own reflections. And she was finally facing hers. Today, I look back on that relationship not with bitterness, but with a deep sense of clarity. It taught me the importance of protecting my heart, of trusting my instincts, and of walking away from anyone who tries to convince me that my pain is just jealousy. I learned that exposing the truth is not cruelty. It is justice. And sometimes justice does not come through anger or revenge, but simply by letting the truth speak for itself. So yes, Eliza thought I was just jealous. Mark thought he could keep his wife in the dark. They both thought their games could continue without any real consequences. But in the end, the truth burned through their lies like fire through paper. And while their world fell apart, I walked away with my head high, my dignity intact, and a future that belonged entirely to me. Like and subscribe for more stories of betrayal, revenge, and finding strength after the truth comes out.